Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Monday, October 21st, 2024, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today will reach 85.2 degrees, with a low of 62.0, so it's a good day to enjoy some outdoor activities. Coming up on Alex's News, we'll explore how a recent classified information leak might impact tensions in the Middle East. We'll also discuss the potential effects of a new birth control regulation on women's healthcare. Finally, we'll look at global efforts to protect biodiversity and save 1 million species from extinction. Stay tuned for these stories and more on Alex's News. We begin with a developing story that has significant implications for the Middle East and global security. Classified documents detailing Israel's potential attack plans against Iran have been leaked, raising concerns about escalating tensions in the region. For more on this, we turn to our national security correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, what can you tell us about these leaked documents?
Grace, this is indeed a serious situation. According to reporting from CBS News and PBS NewsHour, classified documents dated October 16, 2024, have been leaked, revealing Israel's plans to potentially attack Iran. These documents, which were meant to be shared only within the Five Eyes intelligence alliance, were reportedly produced by the U.S. National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Security Agency.
That's quite alarming, Ethan. Can you elaborate on what these documents actually contain?
Certainly, Grace. The leaked documents suggest that Israel is actively positioning military assets for a potential strike against Iran. This move is reportedly in response to a severe ballistic missile attack by Iran on October 1, 2024. The documents detail specific military preparations, including the use of air-launched ballistic missiles, refueling aircraft, and covert long-range drone surveillance.
Are there any specific weapon systems mentioned in these documents?
Yes, Grace. The documents reference systems such as long-range ROX missiles and another system called Golden Horizon, which may be a reference to Blue Sparrow missiles. It's important to note that, according to these documents, there is no evidence that Israel plans to use nuclear weapons in this potential attack.
How did these classified documents become public, Ethan?
According to reports from CNN and Axios, the leak occurred when these classified documents were posted on a Telegram channel called Middle East Spectator on Thursday, October 17, 2024. This channel, which identifies itself as being based in Tehran, has previously published material supportive of Iran's interests.
Have U.S. officials commented on the authenticity of these documents?
Yes, they have. Multiple U.S. officials, including one who spoke to the Associated Press, have confirmed that the documents appear to be legitimate. Additionally, House Speaker Mike Johnson confirmed on CNN's State of the Union that an investigation is underway, describing the leak as very concerning.
What steps are being taken to address this leak?
The U.S. government has launched an investigation to determine how the documents were obtained, whether it was an intentional leak by a member of the U.S. intelligence community or obtained through a hack, and if other intelligence information was compromised. Officials are also identifying who had access to the documents before they were leaked.
This leak comes at a particularly tense time in the region. How might this affect the current geopolitical situation?
You're right, Grace. This leak occurs in a complex geopolitical context. The Guardian reports that the U.S. has been urging Israel to avoid expanding military operations in the region, particularly in Gaza and Lebanon, and to seek a ceasefire. However, Israel's leadership has vowed to respond to Iran's missile attack. It's worth noting that House Speaker Mike Johnson reportedly spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and encouraged restraint.
If Israel were to launch an attack as outlined in these documents, what could be the potential consequences?
The consequences could be severe, Grace. According to analysis from Perplexity AI, potential outcomes might include retaliation from Iran and its proxies, escalation of conflicts in Lebanon and Gaza, involvement of other regional actors like the Houthi rebels in Yemen, significant damage to both Israeli and Iranian infrastructure, and a potential humanitarian crisis. Diplomatically, it could strain U.S.-Israel relations, trigger international intervention attempts, and have significant economic impacts, particularly on global oil prices.
Thank you, Ethan, for that comprehensive report on this developing situation. We'll be sure to keep our viewers updated as more information becomes available.
You're welcome, Grace. As you mentioned, this is a developing story, and we'll continue to monitor it closely.
Thank you, Ethan, and viewers, please stay tuned as we move on to our next story. We're moving on to our second story of the day. The Biden administration has proposed a new rule that could make over-the-counter birth control free for millions of women. To discuss this development, we're joined by our health policy reporter, Chloe. Chloe, can you tell us more about this proposal?
Certainly, Grace. The Biden administration has just announced a proposed rule that would require private health insurance plans to cover all FDA-approved, granted, or cleared contraceptives without any out-of-pocket costs for consumers. This includes over-the-counter products like condoms, spermicide, emergency contraceptions, and even the recently FDA-approved daily oral contraceptive pill, O-pill.
That's quite a change from the current policy. How does this differ from what's already in place?
Well, Grace, currently the Affordable Care Act mandates that most private health plans cover FDA-approved contraceptives prescribed by healthcare providers without cost sharing. The key difference here is that this new rule would expand coverage to include over-the-counter contraceptives without the need for a prescription, making it easier and more affordable for women to access these essential medications.
I see. Can you give us an idea of how many women this might affect?
According to the information provided by the administration, this rule could potentially impact approximately 52 million women of reproductive age with private health insurance. While we don't have an exact percentage, estimates suggest this could be around 50 to 60% of women in this age group based on broader insurance coverage data.
That's a significant number. When might we see this rule go into effect?
If approved, the rule could go into effect in 2025, which is just over 14 months from now. However, it's important to note that its implementation could be affected by the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. Currently, the proposal is open for a public comment period.
How does this fit into the broader context of the administration's healthcare policies?
This move is seen as part of the Biden-Harris administration's ongoing efforts to protect and expand access to reproductive health care services. According to HS Secretary Xavier Becerra, it aims to ensure that more women can access contraceptive services without financial barriers. It's also worth noting that this aligns with a campaign promise made by Vice President Kamala Harris to expand women's health care access.
Are there any other notable aspects of this proposed rule?
Yes, there are a couple of other important points. The rule would remove moral exemptions that allowed some health plans to exclude contraceptive coverage, while retaining existing religious exemptions. Additionally, it would require health insurance providers to notify recipients about the covered OTC products and help women learn more about their contraception coverage.
Thank you, Chloe, for breaking down this complex issue for us. It's certainly a development we'll be watching closely in the coming months.
You're welcome, Grace. As reported by NPR News, the Boston Globe, and various public radio stations affiliated with NPR, such as UALR Public Radio and KAWC, this is indeed a significant proposal that could have far-reaching effects on women's healthcare access.
Thanks again, Chloe, for that comprehensive report. Here are some other headlines. John Kinsel Sr., one of the last remaining Navajo code talkers from World War II, has passed away at the age of 107. Kinsel served with distinction in the Pacific Theater, participating in crucial battles and contributing to the unbreakable code that helped secure Allied victory. Only 2 original Navajo code talkers now remain. The New York Liberty have clinched their first WNBA title in franchise history, defeating the Minnesota Lynx in a thrilling 5-game series. Jonquel Jones was named Finals MVP, leading the team with 17 points in the decisive Game 5 overtime victory. Russian President Vladimir Putin is hosting a summit of the expanded BRICS coalition in Kazan, With 32 countries confirming attendance, the event aims to demonstrate international support for Russia and discuss alternative economic systems to counter Western sanctions. Fethullah Gülen, the influential Turkish Islamic cleric and founder of the global Gulen movement, has died at 83 in Pennsylvania. Gülen, once an ally of Turkish President Erdogan, was accused of masterminding the failed 2016 coup attempt in Turkey, which he denied. South Korea has summoned the Russian ambassador to demand the immediate withdrawal of North Korean troops allegedly deployed in Russia. Intelligence reports suggest approximately 1,500 North Korean Special Forces soldiers have been sent to support Moscow's war efforts in Ukraine, raising significant security concerns in the region. We turn now to our third and final story of the morning. The 16th United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, also known as COP16, is set to begin today in Cali, Colombia. This crucial summit aims to address the global biodiversity crisis and transform previous commitments into actionable plans. Joining us with more details is our environmental correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, can you give us an overview of what's at stake in this conference?
Certainly, Grace. COP16 comes at a critical time for our planet. According to recent studies, over 1 million species are at risk of extinction due to human activities. This 2-week conference, running from today until November 1st, will bring together world leaders, governments, indigenous leaders, businesses, and civil society to discuss how to reverse habitat loss, protect endangered species, and preserve ecosystems.
That sounds like a monumental task, Ethan. What are some of the key objectives of COP16?
One of the primary goals is implementing what's known as the 30 by 30 objective. This aims to protect 30% of the planet's land and water by 2030. To put this in perspective, currently only 8.3% of the world's oceans are designated as marine protected areas, and most of these are poorly regulated.
That's quite a gap to bridge. Are there other specific targets they're focusing on?
Yes, Grace. The conference will also work on developing a framework to implement the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, or GBF, which was established in 2022. This includes setting concrete targets for protecting nature, establishing monitoring and accountability mechanisms, and securing financial resources. Importantly, they're also looking to integrate local and indigenous knowledge into these efforts.
Speaking of financial resources, is there a specific goal for funding biodiversity conservation?
Indeed, there is. According to reports, developed countries are committing to provide $20 billion per year by 2025, increasing to $30 billion by 2030. This financial support is crucial for implementing conservation efforts, especially in biodiversity-rich developing countries.
That's a significant commitment. Now, Colombia is hosting this conference. Can you tell us why that's significant?
Absolutely. Colombia is the third most biodiverse nation in the world, making it a fitting host for COP16. Since being chosen to host, Colombia has taken several actions to protect its biodiversity. These include creating new protected areas, like the National Park Sabana de Manacacas, advocating for a greater role for indigenous communities in conservation, and addressing deforestation.
It sounds like they're leading by example. Ethan, how does this conference build on previous efforts to protect biodiversity?
Well, Grace, it's important to note that previous UN biodiversity targets, such as the Aichi biodiversity targets from 2011 to 2020, were largely unsuccessful in halting biodiversity loss. However, as reported by various environmental organizations, setting global targets can lead to some positive outcomes. The new GBF aims to improve upon these efforts with more ambitious and measurable targets, along with better implementation and financing mechanisms.
Given the urgency of the situation, what are experts saying about the importance of this conference?
Scientists and conservationists are emphasizing the need for immediate and meaningful actions. According to recent studies, we're approaching potential tipping points in crucial ecosystems like the Amazon rainforest. The success of COP16 and the implementation of its outcomes will be critical in determining the future of global biodiversity conservation efforts.
Thank you, Ethan, for that comprehensive overview of COP16 and its significance. We'll be sure to keep our viewers updated on the outcomes of this important conference over the next 2 weeks. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.5, the Perplexity API Malay, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API Malay. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.